Namaste, Assalamualaikum, Sastriyakal, Kemcho, Varakam, Nisabula Vinaka. Welcome to Cop Chat. I'm Jessica Puang, the Ethnic Responsiveness Manager for Tamaki Makaurau for the New Zealand Police. I would like to thank Apna TV for allowing us to use this platform to reach out to the communities. Every now and then, people call 111 or 105 to report crime. And today, I have the privilege of inviting Acting Superintendent Grant TETZLAFF and Vetna Gaunda to come and have a chat with me. Welcome, Acting Superintendent Grant TETZLAFF and also Vetna. Yes, this is the first time I meet you. So welcome to Cop Chat.
Namaste, Balawanaka.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, all right. Okay, let me talk to you, sir, first. Now, I know that, of course, I've worked with you at Auckland City, and you were the Auckland City West Area Commander. Now, often when I go out to communities, people ask me, you know, within the police, there's lots of acting this and acting that. Can you explain what this acting is about and why there is acting roles?
Oh, it's really people are leaving in positions. So obviously we're a large organisation, and people are needed to fill in roles when something happens. So I'm relieving as the Northern Communications boss, if you like, for a 6-month period while the person who's actually in the position is off doing something else.
And so is that for a period, and then after that you go back to your area commander role?
That's correct. I'm on there for 6 months.
And I know you hold a very high position, commanding the whole area in the West area, and it's a pleasure to work with you. And Vetna, you are the dispatcher in the communication center.
Yes, yeah.
Right. So we police use a jargon too, you know, and sometimes we call the Northern Communication Center as North Comms. So, and this is what I like to share with our audience here, that some of the things, some of the jargons that you will hear from us. So, sir, when we say Northern Communications, what area does it cover?
Well, for the North Comms, as you've just called it, we will dispatch policing events for the Upper North Island. That's basically Turangi North. But we will take 111 calls, 105 calls and Star 555 calls from anywhere around the country.
Okay. So how long have you been in North Comms now?
I'm in my 2nd month.
Right, okay. So what does your role cover? Such as like how many staff do you have, and who are the staff in your place?
So we've got just under 400 staff who,
wow, that's a big number.
Who work for us, and that's across people receiving members of the public calls for 105 and 111 and Star 555. So really my role is about managing and running that team of people. And one of those people is Vetna. Obviously Vetna's one of our dispatchers, so she'll be able to tell you about her role and what she does there.
Sure. So Vetna, how long have you been a dispatcher?
I'm actually a newly appointed dispatcher for about 3 to 4 months now.
3 to 4 months? Mm-hmm. And where did you come from?
I was born in Fiji, but raised out here.
All right,
yeah. Okay.
And what are the languages that you speak?
Not very broken Hindi, but I could still, you know, my communication is, I can still communicate if somebody does call into, if I'm taking calls, emergency calls, I can still communicate, figure out, you know, where they are and things like that. So
yeah. All right. So then what is the difference between a dispatcher and a call taker?
Well, call taker is when somebody calls a communication center, they want to speak to somebody, whether it's an emergency or to report crime or anything, they speak to the call taker first, and then the call taker puts the job to the dispatcher, and that's when the dispatcher takes the role of command and, you know, assesses what they need to be done at that time.
So you being a dispatcher, does it mean that when a call comes in from the call taker and it goes to you, and you are the deciding person?
Yes. To
decide whether, where and when, or communicate with the police on the streets?
Yes. So then we get the call into our screen, and depending on what it is, if it's something that needs to be attended right then and there, then I communicate with our officers on the street and send them to those jobs.
Okay, all right. So now we often hear about if there is an emergency, please call 111. This is our message to our communities. So would you like to, I mean, for any person, for I'm part of community myself, any incident that happens to me is an emergency. So would one of you like to explain what is an emergency in your terms?
Well, I think the great thing is now that we've got the 105 number, or 105, there are options for members of the public who do wonder about that. So the 111 system is really for when there's an offender they know is there or they suspect is there, when there's a threat to life or to their property, or someone else's life. And
So say for example, I came home and my door is open. I'm not even sure whether there's someone in there or not. So do I call 111 or do I call 105? Because I know, quite sure that someone has broken into my home. So in that circumstances, who should I call?
Well, we want everyone out there to be safe. So I would suggest in that situation calling 111.
111, okay.
You'll come through to one of our communicators and they're going to ask you some questions, and then from those questions we can then make an assessment about whether we send someone straight away or whether we might be able to gather some further information that might suggest that actually it's an historic job.
You've just touched on a question that many communities ask me is like, we are going to ask them some questions. And this is what communities often say. It's like, why do police ask so many questions? Just come to my home. Why is it that police need to ask so many questions?
Well, we're a nosy lot for a start. But apart from that, when we ask a lot of questions, probably if I can just go backwards from there, the important thing to know is that we have the call taker, or what we call a communicator, and a dispatcher. So it's two people working as a team and not in isolation. So the questions we're asking, the call taker's entering into the computer system, and at the same time the dispatcher can make an assessment on what they're seeing and decide to send a car. So the car can actually be dispatched immediately if necessary, and the amount of questions we're asking is really just to gather more and more information for our staff on the ground so that they're fully informed about what they're going into.
So I think from the community's point of view, when you ask so many questions, the offender would have fled. So what you are saying is, as people give information when the call taker asks questions, those information are immediately passed on to the dispatcher?
Yes, so a matter of seconds. While the call, as soon as the communicator enters a job in, the dispatcher sees it straight away. So in the headline, which is most important, and the location, if we says someone's in my house right now, it gets dispatched straight away. Granted that we've got officers free at that time, so they're already on their way to the job, to the location.
While they are still talking.
And it's very important for us to get crucial things like description of the offender and just other information that we need to give to our boys and girls that are out in the street.
Okay, so as a dispatcher, how do you prioritize which one is important to send people? Because the fact is sometimes we know that possibly at that moment on a busy day, maybe there isn't enough, or is there such a case that there isn't officers available?
So probably coming back to that question you had before, Jessica, around evaluation, we would start taking those details. It would come through to one of the dispatchers, and they will look at it, and then those questions that we're eliciting off the members of the public afterwards is what's really going to help us make those decisions. So if while we're talking to you, a neighbour popped over and said, I saw someone run from the house 2 hours ago, and we put that information, and that makes it a lower priority, as opposed to someone down the road who might have seen someone doing something bad right then. Yeah.
I suppose this question is, and I'm asking on behalf of the community, is because some people do feedback and say, we've rung the police, but they haven't arrived. So this is where I hope your answers will be able to give them reassurance that every call is being looked at.
Yes.
And you will prioritize them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not just by one person, many different roles, many different people look at those each calls and determine, if it's what we need to do further, if we cannot attend at that time.
Okay, so while we have the call taker and then the dispatcher to decide whether to attend that incident, which priority it is, then where does the shift commander comes in? When does he comes in?
So the shift commander for the members of the public out there is an inspector who's working on the...
No, I mean in your office,
Yep.
in your work group.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's an inspector working in the communications
okay.
centre. And that person's between Vedna as the dispatcher and the commander, there's a number of layers. So if Vedna was looking at jobs and wondering or had some questions, she's got a team leader she can call on to come and answer some questions. Then there's another person who sits above that as a section manager. And then the shift commander is there for probably more critical incident jobs. So unfortunately we have a number of failure to stops, so members of the public might know them as pursuits. Those situations, or if we have people with active offender situations with firearms and those higher risk jobs, that's when the shift commander will come into play.
Yeah, we'll support.
And the idea is to support the dispatcher and let Vedna do her job while they can take the responsibility for some of the other decisions.
Okay, so another common question from the community is, what if I don't speak English very well, or I don't speak English at all? So what will happen?
Well, we at the communication centre we have so many different diverse of different types of people working there, and we tried and look around to see if whoever is needed the language they speak. Sometimes we don't have that. As long as we can find, communicate somehow to get a location and what is going on, just so we can send an officer out there, just to give them peace of mind.
We also have access to, it used to be called the language line, it's just changed names, so we've got a number we can call, and it's 24 hours, 7 days a week. There's 150 odd languages they cover.
Wow.
And if necessary, they can become a third party to the call and pass the information to us, so we can rely on those. But in an emergency situation, those initial few words that we can get off people, a word or two around what's happening.
Like
car crash.
Yeah, car crash, or back gone.
Something.
Yes.
And then we really look into find out their exact location. And
the main thing is to get them.
We start from there.
Yeah. All right. The main thing is to ensure that they're safe. Yes. Okay.
I think what I've seen, Jessica, in my time there is the communicators, those taking the call, is an amazingly empathetic group of people, and some of the patience they have with people who are ringing up in terrible situations, and their ability to calmly deal with them is awesome.
Right, okay. So when someone calls, say a 111 calls, what are the usual questions that they will ask? So this is for our communities to understand and sort of have their preparation in their minds, those who are watching this program now.
Well, we initially follow something called the 6 steps.
The 6 steps,
And to start off with, it's the location, where they are. And we like to verify, because there are so many Smith Street in New Zealand, and once we've got the location, we find out what has happened and the time. If it's happening now, 2 minutes ago, and then we go from there onwards.
So, you start off with location and what's happened, and then your name. And after giving you all that information, will they be given a number or something? And if so, what should they do with it?
Yep, they're usually given, a lot of times, they are given an event number, or even a file number if it's not an emergency, if they want to create a report. Either they've given something.
So All right, so we should remember it's called either an event number or a file number. So this is a number that you do not lose, you keep it, and if you want to go back and ask about this incident later on, this is the number you can give to the police, and they will be able to find your file pretty much very, very quickly. Yeah? Okay. So let's talk a little bit about non-emergency now. So this number was created just recently. Are people calling in?
Yes, it's proving very successful. So
Okay.
last month we passed over 105,000 calls there.
105,000 in the 1 month.
No, in the time it's been established.
When was that established? I think it was
10th
No,
of May.
10th of May.
Yeah.
All right. Wow, that's a lot.
So that's a lot of calls, and those are people who are trying to get hold of the police from anywhere around the country.
Mhm.
And a lot of the calls we're taking are the calls that would traditionally have gone through to the local station situation. But what we've got is we've got the ability to take the information they've got, take their crime report over
Okay.
the phone, as opposed to saying come down to the station. So we think we're hoping we're providing a much better level of service for those people.
And I suppose with the 105 calls, the call taker has a bit more time to get into a little bit more details. Is that right?
Mhm.
Rather than emergency.
Yeah.
You really want those emergency information, urgent information.
Really quick in
Yes.
and out, yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got two different focuses there. The emergency situation is more around getting a police person to you as
Yes.
quickly as possible, and the 105 number is really about taking all the details off you so you don't have to speak to anyone else.
Communities are still saying there are some cases where they are asked to go to the police station and report it.
Yep.
What are those sort of cases or incidents that they have to go to a police station?
Oh, crikey. Probably some of the more serious end things. Things where we would require formal statements of people. So the 105 number is probably better set up for things such as your car broken into,
Right.
if you've been burgled, those historic things where we're going to take a report. If we need to get statements from you, such as you've been assaulted and you can identify who the offender is or things like that, and we will need something that is potentially evidential for court in that respect,
Okay.
that's probably when we'll ask you to come to a station.
Another common thing that I often get as working in the ethnic team is that people often say that I dare not call the police when there's a suspicious person standing outside my home, simply because they think that police don't come, but there's not enough police. Can you share something with our audience here?
Yeah, well, I mean, we would love to know about that information, and probably one of the first questions you're going to get asked when you call is why do you think they're suspicious? Now that's going to be probably a key initial question to find out. We will use all of this information, and the question will be for Edna or someone else to decide initially is, do we send a car now? Do we send a police officer now? Or do we not? Now, even if we don't send a car right now, it definitely helps us build a much bigger picture of what's happening. So as a member of the public who sees someone suspicious, you might not be aware of what issues the local communities are facing, but that phone call might be the key that we need to fixing those
Right.
other issues.
Right.
And even if we don't have an officer, as my role as a dispatcher, I will still broadcast all those details, because we still have so many different police officers out in the street, whether it's road policing, and they might be just driving past, and they will often turn around and say, I'll drive past and have a look to see if anyone's there.
So who dispatches those officers? Is it still yours?
It's my role to dispatch, but if I don't have actual PST police
Yes.
available, if they are at serious jobs and things like that, I will still broadcast that.
All right. Okay.
And it's for other officers in the area just passing through, and they might just say, oh, I'll drive past and have a look.
Okay, okay. So also, apart from 111, now we've learned about 111, we've learned about 105. There is also Star 555, and what is that for, please?
Star 55 is for when you're out on the road.
Star 555.
Yes.
Yeah.
while you're out on the road driving and you're concerned about someone's driving behaviour, and you think there's a risk, and that's really what we want to know about. You know, the police as an organisation, we're always telling members of the public about dangers on the road, and around some of those key risks and how they can improve their driving behaviours and some behaviour to avoid, such as being on your cell phone, speed and those sorts of things. But what we would like to do is, if you're seeing someone else's driving behaviour that you think is going to be a risk to yourself or someone else, let us know so that we can see if someone is in the area to inset that vehicle and see what the situation is.
So what information will be asked? What sort of questions will be asked for a Star 555 call?
The location to start off with, the direction of travel. So which way are they going? Are they, you know, on a certain state highway? Are they going north or south?
Rego number.
And the vehicle description, and you know what the vehicle's doing.
All right. Okay. The color of the car. Yeah.
Yes, everything, and it's for us as dispatchers, because every single one of those calls that we get in our screen, we broadcast those details to let the officers on the street know.
Okay. All right. And so far, you know, in the past, we often heard that the the people are calling 111 even though it's not an emergency. So nowadays, has that number stabilized or dropped, or?
Well, people are obviously starting to use the 105 number.
So 111 are people calling in more of emergency? Have they been educated on 105, or are there still lots of people calling 111 which is still not non-emergency?
We still get calls to 111 that are not an emergency.
Okay.
So look, this is a great avenue for us here to talk around the 105 and the Star 555 and the 111 system.
Yes.
And I guess across all three of those numbers to get in contact with us, we want to try to get people to dial the right number so that we can get our police staff on the street assigned to the biggest need in the quickest time we can.
Sure. So we've learned about 111, 105, Star 555. So I know that we also have Crime Stoppers. All right. Would you like to say something about Crime Stoppers?
Yeah, so that's when a lot of people want to report something about someone, but they want to stay anonymous. So they call 0800 555 111 and send all those details through Crime Stoppers, and we receive, as a communicators, receive those details. They process it and send it through to the
relevant departments
in the correct districts. Yeah.
Yes, and sometimes this kind of calls may not necessarily only be for police. It could be for immigration, customs, and people who would normally call in to this kind of calls could be a family. They know of family disputes all the time in their neighbors, but they didn't want people to know. Or sometimes they think that the neighbors are misbehaving and they want us to know. Also, sometimes is maybe people dealing with drugs, I suppose. So there are many reasons that people use Crime Stoppers, and I think the thing that people use it is you can keep your identity, that you can keep your identity anonymous, so no one knows. But the thing is, when you make these calls, you have to give good details, because they can't call you back. No one knows who you are, right? Yeah. So
the only thing I'd just like to say on the end of that, Jessica, and it's just coming back to the 111 system, because I've received a number of Crime Stopper files previously.
All right.
And if as a person who wants to report something and you're fearful for yourself or a family member or anyone else, please call 111. Don't call Crime Stoppers.
Yeah, emergency.
If you think there's a risk, use 111.
Especially if it's family harm happening now, do not call Crime Stoppers. It has to be 111.
Well, yeah.
If it's happening now.
Because we want to make sure that the people stay safe.
Yes, yes. And you mentioned something just now during our break. It's about online reporting. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so online reporting is where a lot of people, as we know, everyone's so busy, they want to report a crime such as burglary, theft ex car, theft from the shop, for businesses as well, they can go to our police website and submit their report through the www.police.govt.nz website, and then it gets sent out through the crime reporting line, and we process that report and email them back with their file reference number.
All right. And obviously these are incidents that are non-emergency. Anything emergency, call 111. Right. Is there anything else you would like to share with our audience today?
Well, the only thing I'd like to share is the New Zealand Police is always looking for good people. So whether that's...
Okay, hang on. Cut here. So, right, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you very much, sir, and also Vetna, for coming on to Cop Chat. We always like to hear feedback from you, and if you have any feedback for us, please email us. And for now, thank you for watching Cop Chat, and I look forward to seeing you the next time.